Hi, and welcome to the presentation from Group 8 of the subject of managing emotions with the topic the relationship between emotions and culture. I am Muhammad Arshad Rifki Dasdanda, and now we will discuss about how it's going to be. First of all, have you ever wondered when you feel happy, when you get graduated, when you get a new score, a really, really good score, excellent score, how will you express it? Some people will jump, some people will tell to eat every person's you meet to see, or maybe there are some people just keep quiet and keep it for themselves. So then, have you ever wondered, is your joy universal or cultural, or your form of joy itself is a cultural or universal? Well, there are maybe some introductions to you. There's a big differences between the emotions and the culture. Well, when we talk about the emotions itself, it is the relationship between the psychology and the physiology. On the other hand, the culture is the shared norms, values, and practices, maybe with the environment or society around you. Hence, here comes the question: how does culture influence how we express, regulate, and perceive our emotions? By this presentation, you will listen and get the explanation from my colleagues who are brilliant, and we will know together how the culture will influence of each other kind to create the emotions.
Okay, everyone. Next part is my part. I'm Adrian today. I'm going to be talking about how different cultures express emotions. So, one of the biggest difference is between individualistic and collectivist cultures in places like, for example, the US or France, maybe. People usually express emotion quite openly. Like, for example, if they are upset, excited, they'll just actually say it out loud. But because being honest and showing your true feelings is, they seen it as a good thing. But it is actually quite different in Japan or China. People actually tend to hold back their emotions. It's not like they don't feel them, it's more about keeping harmony and avoid some conflicts. Okay, so this connects to something called display rules. Basically, every culture has its own unspoken rules, and about when it's okay to show certain emotion and how strongly you can show them. Okay, a simple example is if you're in a meeting, a French coworker might openly show like frustration when something goes wrong, but like a Japanese, on the other side, a Japanese coworker might stay calm, neutral, etc. Even they feel the same way, but because showing frustration could be seen as destructive, like the,
Okay, my name is Sri Kubera and my matrix number is A197769. So, welcome to my part of the session, which is cultural differences in emotional perception. So, our emotional responses on how we express them vary significantly across cultures. For example, some cultures may read emotions through facial expressions, while others focus on behavior like body language and silence. Today, I'll walk you through three key aspects: how we read facial expressions, how we interpret behaviors, and the consequences these differences can have in communication. In a globalized world, understanding these differences is crucial to avoid miscommunications and foster better intercultural communications. All right, so now let's talk about how facial expressions are read in different cultures. In Western cultures, the mouth plays a crucial role in expressing emotions. A smile, a frown is often a clear indicator of how someone feels. But in East Asian cultures, the eye takes a greater importance. A slight narrowing of the eye or avoiding eye contact can indicate discomfort or respect. For example, in a meeting, a French person might show frustration by raising the eyebrows or sighing audibly, but a Japanese person might maintain calmness, reading the room more subtly, and these are the differences that can lead to confusion. The French person may feel the Japanese participant is disengaged, while Japanese participant may be perceiving the French person as too direct or rude. Okay, so now let's explore how different cultures interpret behaviors like silence. In Western cultures, silence is often seen as awkward or uncomfortable. So people tend to speak up or make small talk to break the silence. However, in East Asian culture, silence can indicate respect or a moment of reflection, for instance. In a business meeting, a German participant might feel compelled to fill any silence with discussion, believing it keeps the flow of the conversation alive. Meanwhile, a Chinese participant might remain quiet, showing respect for the speaker or taking time to reflect on what's been said. This difference can easily lead to misunderstanding because one party might interpret the silence as disengagement while the other sees it as signs of respect or careful consideration. Okay, last but not least, for my part, understanding these cultural differences in is vital in today's interconnected world. All right, misreading facial expressions, body language, or silence can lead to miscommunications, especially in professional or diplomatic contexts. For example, in a French business negotiation, directness might be valued, but a Japanese counterpart might view it as too blunt or prefer a more indirect approach. By basically understanding these cultural differences, we can build a stronger and more respectful relationships, whether in a personal or professional interactions. Recognizing and adapting to these emotional cues ensures clearer and communication and better outcomes in business, education, or even diplomacy. Thank you.
Universal and cultural specific emotions, exploring feelings across the world. So, what are the universal emotions? That is, emotions everyone feels, no matter their culture, based on basic human reactions such as joy, anger, disgust, or sadness, and so on. So, what are culture specific emotions? It is emotions tied to a group's language, traditions, or way of life, and is not felt or named the same everywhere. They show how culture shapes feelings, and some examples of culture specific emotions. Like amai in Japanese, it's sweet feelings of being cared for like a child, or Schadenfreude in German. It's happy when someone else had bad luck, or Saudade in Portuguese. It's the missing of something lost. So why this matters is because it helps us understand others better, and it builds empathy across cultures, and it's useful in travel, work, or friendships. So understanding universal and cultural specific emotions helps us connect with people from different backgrounds by recognizing shared feelings like joy or fear, while appreciating unique ones shaped by traditions. This builds empathy, making it easier to relate across cultures without misunderstandings. In everyday life, it's useful for travel, where You might encounter new emotional expressions or in work and friendships, fostering stronger bonds and smoother interactions.
Why do some people try to stay calm when they experience a negative emotion, while others express it more openly? A major reason is culture, which plays a key role in how we regulate our emotions. My name is Jawhara, and today I will focus on culture and emotion regulation. Emotion regulation refers to the ways we manage and adjust our emotions so we can respond appropriately in different situations. It's also shaped by cultural norms because every culture teaches us what emotions are acceptable to show and how we should express them. Here on this slide, you see the model emotion to regulation to behavior. So, first we experience an emotion, then we regulate it depending on what feels appropriate, and finally it becomes visible through our behavior. In many East Asian cultures, such as Japan, South Korea, China, Indonesia, or even Malaysia, emotion regulation emphasizes restraint and social harmony. Individuals are socialized from a young age to moderate their emotional expressions, particularly negative emotions, in order to avoid conflicts and maintain group cohesion. In contrast, Western or individualistic cultures, such as the United States, France, or the UK, tend to encourage the open expression of emotions. Expressing feelings is often associated with authenticity, transparency, and psychological well being. Individuals are generally taught that communicating emotions is a constructive way to manage relationships and resolve conflicts. These differences can create misunderstandings when people from different cultures interact. For instance, someone from an expressive culture might interpret emotional restraint as coolness or a lack of interest. On the other hand, someone from a culture that values control may see open emotional expression as too direct or even inappropriate. This shows how emotion regulation shapes the way we interpret each other's behavior.
In summary, we have seen that culture deeply influences our emotional lives, from how we express feelings, how we perceive them in others, the balance between universal and culture-specific emotions, and finally, the strategies we use for emotional regulations. From the question we discussed in the beginning, we understand that culture defines the acceptable ways to express, analyze, and manage our emotions in various social circumstances. As the end of the presentation, we need to understand that in today's globalized world, recognizing that emotion regulation is not only personal but also deeply cultural is critical, essential, important to developing cross-cultural empathy and effective communications. Ladies and gentlemen, here are our presentations regarding the relationship between emotions and culture. We would like to thank for your attention, and we hope you a really nice day. Thank you and goodbye.